I'm Casimiro Rodriguez Sr. I'm president and founder of the Hispanic Heritage Council of Western New York, a nonprofit organization that promotes history, heritage, and culture. My childhood was excellent. If I was to do it again, I'd do it the same way. I was born and raised in the city of Lackawanna, the Steel City. Why I was born and raised in the Steel City? My parents came here in the early 1950s. My dad came as a migrant worker, as a worker on the farms, and he found employment at the Bethlehem Steel Plant. Back in those days, steel and rail was thriving. A lot of jobs. Bethlehem Steel Plant was at one time one of the biggest employers in the area. But my dad found work there. I'm the 12th of 13 children. All my siblings, older siblings, were all born in the island of Puerto Rico. It was only myself and my sister, your younger sister, that were born in the city of Lackawanna. And our upbringing was a very humble upbringing. We lived in the Baker Home Projects. It was a stone throw away from the parking lot to the Bethlehem Steel Plant. So you can get an idea of basically the geographic location on the on Steelawana Avenue, 196 Steelawana. My dad, when he came here alone first until he got acclimated and got situated, and then he sent to get my mom, and then he sent to get my older siblings. But that's where we grew up, the city of Lackawanna. My parents were not fluent in English. They spoke broken English to the day they passed away, but we spoke Spanish at home. And that's where I pretty much, and my siblings, other than the ones that were born in Puerto Rico, but my sister, my younger sister, and myself, that's where we learned the Spanish language. It was dominant at home. My parents, my mom and my dad were very, very religious. They attended and they got involved with the church. I recall the Assumption Church on Steelawana Avenue. We used to walk there every Sunday morning for 9 o'clock Mass. But, I think that, the values that were instilled in myself and my siblings of humble beginnings, of caring, of love, of respect, of being dependable. And those were the values that were instilled in us as children. And those are the values that today we carry on to our children and to our community service. So what better lessons than those? My early years, I attended Catholic school. But when we moved from Lackawanna to Buffalo, my dad was able to buy a home in Allentown. I remember very well 65 Mariner Street. That's where my dad bought a home. Went through the Buffalo public school system, went to Grover Cleveland High School, graduated from Grover Cleveland High School. I met my wife at Grover Cleveland High School. We were high school sweethearts. And when I graduated from high school, I went to college. I was able to enroll in the University of Buffalo through the EOP program. And I went through that process, all paid, education all paid. And I went to college. I studied American government at the University of Buffalo. By that time, I was around 18 years old. And I gained employment at the General Motors Corporation, Tonawanda Engine Plant. And that's where, my career began. I went into college at 73. In 77, I graduated from college. And that's when I went into the management program at General Motors. So these were all doors of opportunities that opened up, whether it was college, whether it was working for a corporation like General Motors on the assembly line and then get tapped on the shoulder, you like to get into management, I said yes. So I went into the management program at General Motors, and that was in 1977, 1980. I had already had 4 children. And that's when when I was asked if I would like to take an assignment in Mexico because of my bilingual ability to be able to dominate Spanish and English. Manufacturing companies were pretty much being built in Mexico, and I took that assignment. I lived there for 5 years, and it was an assignment that was very beneficial, not only to me in my career, but to my children as well. My children today, they're very, very dominant in Spanish and English. They write Spanish and English. Why? Because of that experience, because of that 5-year experience when they were youngsters, babies. They were able to appreciate the Mexican culture, which is very similar to our Puerto Rican culture, to our Hispanic culture. My children were able to relate to that, go to the schools in Mexico and be able to practice their Spanish, both Spanish and English. And today, that's continues, in their careers. So, that was pretty much my career with General Motors. It began in Mexico, and then I came back here to the States. And then in the late 1990s, I went on to Europe. And, my first assignment at Europe was in Germany. From Germany, I went to Italy. When I was in Italy, and this was all under General Motors Corporation, GM Europe. Prior to that, it was GM de Mexico. But GM Europe, that gave me another opportunity in my career where I was able to be the production launch manager for new programs in Europe. Big responsibility at a very young age. And that was in the late 1990s. And I took that assignment, and that was a great assignment because I was able to work not only in Germany, but Italy, Poland, Hungary, in Sweden, in England, and many countries that gave me the opportunity to be able to relate to different cultures, different languages, different types of people. And I think that's why today, it's very easy to me. It's very easy for me to be able to relate to a diverse community that we live in here in Western New York. Where you have folks from all ethnic backgrounds. If you look at the Buffalo Public Schools, there's over 70-some languages spoken. So it gives you a real good idea of the diversity within our region, whether within Western New York. In 2009, I was asked to be on the Erie County Cultural Resource Board, and that board is run by Erie County. It funds the arts and cultural sector, many arts and cultural organizations, and I was able to appreciate what the arts and cultural sector does in our region. And when you talk the arts and cultural sector, you're talking about organizations like the Buffalo Zoo, Buffalo Science Museum, the library, the History Museum, the Buffalo Philharmonic, many other arts and cultural groups, just to name a few. Those are just a few. But I remember that being on this board, I was able to appreciate and understand what the arts and cultural sector does in our region. And through that experience and talking with many of the CEOs and the executive directors that run these arts and cultural organizations, I was able to understand what they do for the community and for our region, a very important piece. Some of them dealt with history, some of them dealt with art, some of them dealt with culture. But, it's an area it's an area that really supports us as people and supports the community. So in my conversation with them, I always, and reading their proposals and what have you, I always looked at how does our community fit in? How do our Hispanic community fit in to their programming, their vision, and their mission? And I really saw that there was something missing. Did a lot of research when I first was inspired to form an organization like the Hispanic Heritage Council. Through the studies and through the research, we found that Hispanics had been part of the fabric of Western New York since the late 1800s. And very little was documented as to what was the trajectory or what was the journey of Hispanics coming here. How did they evolve to the community that we see today? Our mission is to grow the awareness and understanding of Hispanic heritage, history, and culture, and at the same time share it with our neighbors and our friends and community. So that's basically what we've done since the organization was founded in 2010. Every year, Hispanic Heritage Month is big in our region, in our area. And what we do during Hispanic Heritage Month, we come up with a calendar of events. And that calendar of events is made up by who? Well, it's made up by many of these partners that we met around the table back in 2009 that are pretty much doing good things, promoting their arts, their culture, their heritage, and at the same time, we partner with them. We have events at the library, we have events at the History Museum, at the Science Museum, with the Buffalo Philharmonic, the Buffalo Zoo, with all these entities, so that our community can also appreciate what they do and they can appreciate what we do for them. Every year, our website, www.hispanicheritage.wny.org, you're able to see there a section where we talk about the history of Hispanics here in Western New York, with the help of the History Museum, through their intelligence, through their support, we were able to come up with a traveling exhibit where through pictures and through narratives and through documentary and information, we were able to put together an exhibit where this exhibit is shared in many private, public, government agencies, health agencies, where folks can read, they can see basically how the Hispanic community evolved. I'm very proud of what we've been able to do, with a volunteer board of directors. No one gets paid on this job. It's all volunteer hours. We do not have a paid staff. But at the same time, we're on the way to build the first in upstate New York Hispanic Heritage Cultural Institute. An institution, a project that we broke ground in 2023. And today, we're building it right in the heart of our community, the Buffalo West Side. And we hope that, and we have faith that by 2026, we're able to open it so that not only our community can appreciate, but also the community at large. Well, the advice that I will give our youngsters of today is that never give up. Take advantage of the opportunity. Understand that the education is something that cannot be taken away. It's been said and it's been proven. Get a good education. Know who you are. Understand and study your roots. And never give up.